Buddha attained enlightenment in Uruvela at the age of 35 years. He gave his first sermon in Sarnath to the 5 ascetics and established the Sangha. For the next 45 years, he roamed across the Gangetic Plains of India, preaching to the common masses, till he attained Parinirvana at the age of 80 years. More than 2 centuries after the death of Buddha, Asoka became the Emperor of India. During his rule, Buddhism received royal patronage, and it quickly spread across India and in many other parts of Asia through the different Buddhist missions sent by him. In this video, we will examine the state of Buddhism during the lifetime of Buddha and how Buddha propagated the Dhamma across India. In the 6th century BC, India was divided into a large number of independent states known as Janpads. There were also 16 states of considerable power and extent known as Mahajanapads. These states flourished between Afghanistan in the north and up to the southern parts of India. The 6th century was an important landmark in the religious history of India. It was a period of religious ferment which saw the rise of Shravana movement and several religions like Buddhism, Jainism, and Ajivikas. The dominance of Vedic Brahmanism started to decline. It is known from different historical records that Buddha and his disciples succeeded in great measure in their missionary activities across India, with the active support, cooperation, and patronage of several important rulers, bankers, merchants, and artisans. As a result, Buddhism soon became very prominent in the religious history of ancient India. But how did the Dhamma Buddha spread so far and fast across India and took deep roots during the lifetime of Buddha himself? Let's discuss how Buddhism spread in different parts of India at the time of Buddha. Buddha attained enlightenment in Uruvela, which was situated near Rajgriha, the capital city of Magadh. Magadh was ruled by Bimbisar, who was the founder of the Haranyaka dynasty. He was a contemporary of the Buddha and was his great patron. He made great contributions to the development of Buddhism in his kingdom. The first meeting between the king Bimbisar and the Buddha took place 7 years before the enlightenment of Buddha. After the renunciation, Buddha reached Rajgriha, where he stayed at the Valja peak with hundreds of ascetics. Bimbisar went to the Valja peak to meet the young ascetic. During the meeting, Siddhartha or Buddha promised the king that he would come to his capital after the attainment of supreme knowledge. Buddha, immediately after the attainment of his enlightenment, came to Rajgriha and stayed in the palm grove, where Bimbisar went to pay his respects to him. On this occasion, Buddha gave a discourse to him. After the sermon, the king and his people took refuge in Dhamma and became his followers. The king then offered the Veluvana or the bamboo grove to Buddha, which was the first gift of a monastery to Buddha. The king issued an order that nobody should do any harm to the disciples of Buddha. It was due to the king's great love and sympathy for Buddha and his disciples that Buddhism prospered in his kingdom. At the request of King Bimbisar, the Buddha not only formulated the rules and regulations for the Sangha, but also at his suggestion, he introduced the Uposatha or ordination ceremony, along with the recital of Patimokha or the Buddhist monastic code in the Sangha. The Mahavagga records that the king invited all his superintendents of the 80,000 villages of his kingdom to a meeting to receive instruction from Buddha. Khema, the wife of Bimbisar, became one of the chief female disciples of Buddha. Ajatasattu was the son of King Bimbisar, who became the king of Magadh after Bimbisar when Buddha was 72 years old. Buddhism flourished during the period of Ajatasatru also. He killed his father at the instigation of Devadatta, the stepbrother of Buddha. He even tried to kill Buddha multiple times, but later realized his mistakes and repented for his sins. He then became a devout follower of Buddha. The king played a vital role in the further progress of Buddhism in the Magadh region. After the Parinirvana of Buddha, he claimed a share of the relics of Buddha. He built a large stone stupa in Rajgriha over the relics of Buddha. He built several Dhatu Chaityas in his capital Rajgriha. He also repaired 18 monasteries in Rajgriha, which were deserted by Buddhist monks just after the Parinirvana of Buddha. Ajatasattu was also closely associated with the first Buddhist council, which was held under his patronage. The council was held in the Saptvarni caves in Rajgriha, 2 months after the death of Buddha. The council continued for 7 months. In the first council, the Vinaya was settled under the leadership of Monk Upali, and the text of Abhidhamma was settled and arranged under the guidance of Ananda, one of the prominent disciples of Buddha. Pasenadi or Prasenjit was the king of Kosala and was a contemporary of Buddha. He was regarded as one of the most important rulers of the time. He not only conquered Kashi, but also the Sakya Kingdom of Kapilvastu. Several Buddhist texts refers to King Pasenadi's important role in the advancement of Buddhism in his kingdom. King Pasenadi's devotion to Buddha not only made him his ardent advisor, but also his follower and close friend. Under the influence of his wife Mallika, he offered valuable gifts to the Buddha on an immense scale. Buddhism prospered in Kosala under the leadership of Pasenadi. King Pasenadi's son, Brahmadatta, joined the Sangha at an early age and became an Arhat. His sister Sumana also became a bhikkhuni or nun. At the request of Buddha, he built the Kajakrama, a monastery for nuns. He supported Buddha strongly in his missionary activities and took a keen interest in the spread of Buddhism in his kingdom. He is also known for building several large monasteries and chaityas for the Sangha. Chandrapradyot Mahasena was contemporary to Buddha, and he was the king of Avanti in central India in the 6th century BC. He was a powerful king, and Ujjain was his capital. Mahakashyana, who was the son of his royal priest, went to Varanasi to meet Buddha. Buddha gave several sermons to him, and after listening to the sermons of Buddha, he became a monk and attained arhatship. He converted Mahasena to Buddhism. After returning to Avanti, he introduced Buddhism among the common masses of the kingdom. With the support of King Mahasena, he built several monasteries like Guraraghara, Makkarakata, and many others. Thousands of citizens converted to Buddhism with their efforts. Mahasena and Mahakashyana were able to firmly establish Buddhism in Avanti during the lifetime of Buddha himself. King Udena or Udayan was the king of Vatsa. Kaushambi, which is situated near present-day Prayagraj, was his capital. King Udena was a contemporary of Buddha. At first, he was not very friendly towards Buddhism and did not pay any respect to Buddha or the Sangha. His wife, Queen Samavati, was a Buddhist who requested Ananda to give sermons to the women of the palace. The king was not very happy with the visits of Ananda and the monks, but later changed his mind after having a long discussion with the disciples of Buddha. After learning the meditation techniques to restrain and command the senses, he converted to Buddhism. He became a lay devotee of Buddha, and every day he used to invite hundreds of monks at his palace for the meal. Under his guidance, several monasteries were built, and Buddhism became very popular in the kingdom of Vatsa. Gandhara, which roughly corresponds to northwest Pakistan and the adjoining areas in Afghanistan, was ruled by King Puskarasarin during the 6th century BC. His capital was Takshila. He was a great friend of Bimbisar, the king of Magadh. Takshila and Magadh shared very close cultural and political ties. Bimbisar, after his conversion to Buddhism, sent an inscribed copper plate along with several valuable gifts to the king of Gandhara. The copper plate had a description of the 3 gems and of the important teachings of Buddha. After reading the teachings, he got inspired to meet Buddha and came to Rajgriha. During his meeting with him, the Buddha preached to him Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta. The king converted to Buddhism. He started working towards the spread of Dhamma in Gandhara, and soon Gandhara became a stronghold of Buddhism. To the south of Gandhara, there was Sauvira Janpad. Rudrayana was the king of Sauvira in the days of Buddha. Sauvira roughly corresponds to the modern-day Sindh in Pakistan. He was a great friend of King Bimbisar of Magadh. He also received gifts from the king of Magadh, along with a copper inscription of Buddha's teachings. After reading the Buddha's teachings, he became a follower of Buddha. Later he joined the Sangha as a monk. During the lifetime of Buddha, Buddhism was firmly established in the kingdom of Rudrayana or modern-day Sindh. If you move towards the foothill of Himalayas in Nepal, there was the great Sakya Mahajanapada. Buddha was a Sakyan prince. The capital of the Sakyan clan was Kapilvastu in modern-day Nepal. The Buddha visited Kapilvastu after his enlightenment, but initially he did not receive a warm welcome from his clan members. Once the Sakyans realized their mistake, they became followers of the Dhamma. Buddha was also able to convert other Sakyan cities in the foothills of Nepal. Buddha was also very successful with the Koliya clans residing in Devdaha and Ramagama. The ancient towns of Ramagama and Devdaha were situated in the foothills of the Himalayas in Nepal, very close to the Sakyan capital of Kapilvastu. The Koliyas were related to Buddha through his mother and his wife, who were Koliya princesses. The Koliyas were very receptive to the Dhamma since the beginning, and Buddha visited several Koliya towns during his lifetime. Further south, to the Sakyans of Kapilvastu, there were the Lichhavis of Vaishali. At the time of Buddha, the Lichhavis were regarded as the most powerful clan in northeastern India. Vaishali was the capital of Lichhavis. Lichhavis were the followers of Vedic Brahmanism or Hinduism. Vaishali was also one of the most important strongholds of another Sramana tradition, the Jainism. Vaishali was the birthplace of Mahavira, the last Tirthankar of Jainism. Initially, Buddha faced a lot of opposition in Vaishali from the followers of Jainism. But finally, Buddha was able to win over Satyaka, one of the prominent followers of Jainism. He converted to Buddhism along with 500 members of his clan. Buddha also saved Vaishali during one of the worst epidemics at the time of Buddha, which ravaged Vaishali. Once the epidemic was over, thousands of residents of Vaishali converted to Buddhism. They built several chaityas and monasteries for the Sangha, but perhaps the most famous was the Kutagashala Vihara, which was built as the residence of the Buddha for his rainy retreat. Buddha visited Vaishali several times, where he also gave his last sermon. To the west of the Vaishali, there were the Mallas of Kushinagar. The Mallas were a powerful Kshatriya clan in northern India. They had two divisions, one based in Kushinara or Kushinagar and another in Pava. At first, the Mallas were not friendly with the Buddha when he came to their capital, Kushinara, to preach Dhamma. On seeing the hostile attitude of the residents of Kushinara, the assembly of Mallas announced a fine of 500 kapanas for any Malla citizen who disrespected Buddha or did not show respect to him during his visits to Kushinara. But later, many of the Malla clan converted to the Dhamma of Buddha, and Buddhism became very popular among the Mallas. Buddha had his last meal in Pava before he attained Parinirvana in Kushinagar. Several large stupas and monasteries were built in Kushinagar, including the Mahaparinirvana Stupa and the cremation Stupa. Buddha established the strong foundation of Dhamma across India, which was further strengthened and expanded by later kings like Asoka and Kanishka. The regions which were converted by Buddha remained Buddhist for a very long time, till Buddhism started to decline after the 10th century AD.